You are now entering the world of Musings of a Geek podcast network. Stay geeky, my friends.
On June 19th, 1992, Alternate Realities opened its doors at 700 Central Park Avenue. I was 5, and about to discover comic books 2 towns over at a store called Heroes World. Like any good comic book fan, I checked out the other shops in the area, including Alternate Realities, though I'd be lying if I said I remembered my first time there. After Heroes World closed, rather abruptly, Alternate Realities became my local comic shop. In time, I'd go from customer to employee to chronicler of this store and the people here. That is my comic shop history. And what you're about to hear is the most difficult chapter yet. The final one. Welcome to the finale of My Comic Shop History. I'm your host, Anthony Desiato. My Comic Shop History is a 12-episode podcast event that has chronicled the rise and fall of New York comic book store Alternate Realities. Over the past 11 weeks, I have spoken to past and present owners, customers, and employees about our experiences at the store from both sides of the counter. And now, at last, we say goodbye. For this final episode, I am joined by 2 guests. To my right, Alternate Realities legend, Bill Maio.
Wow.
Welcome, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. And I didn't know I was quite the legend.
You are. Very much so, and we'll talk about why.
Okay.
And across from me, the man behind the counter for most of the past 23 years, and the subject of many of our podcast discussions, Steve Oto. Welcome, Steve.
Oh, thank you very much. Happy to be here.
All right. If you two would just indulge me for a moment, I want to thank a few people who have contributed to this show. So first and foremost, the guests. Everyone who has been on the show has come ready to play and contribute and has offered, some great stories and insight. So I want to thank everyone who has been a guest on My Comic Shop History. I think listeners know that these episodes are edited, but what they might not know is that the recordings, on average, have run about 2 to 3 hours. And I think that's a testament to just the friendship and how much fun we have doing these things. Because normally when I point out how much time has passed, people are surprised. Thank you to the listeners. I really can't stress this enough. I wanted to do a podcast for a long time, and the 2 things that held me back were, 1, I didn't really know what it would be about, and 2, I didn't know if anyone would listen. So Steve, thank you for solving my first problem by deciding to close the store and giving us such great material to work with. And to the listeners, thank you for tuning in and participating to this show. Whether you listen to one episode or all of them, whether you're a lifelong comic book fan or you've never read a comic book, whether you're familiar with Alternate Realities or you've never been to a comic book store, thank you for tuning in and listening to our story. I want to thank my intern, Adam. I want to thank 2 people for their technical assistance. I've mentioned this before, but I want to thank Doug Desher. His technical guidance was invaluable as I was starting out on this process. I also want to thank Greg Schiegel, who's a cartoonist and a podcaster in his own right, and he sent me some very, very helpful information as I was embarking on this journey, so thank you to Greg as well. Mr. Ralph Puma, he's the gentleman whose music you hear at the beginning and end of all of these episodes, and he has very, very generously let me use all of his music across all of my projects. So I want to thank Ralph, and also let listeners know that Ralph has a project called Solace. It's a 6-episode series about 2 young women who own a comic book shop. So I think listeners of this show might find it interesting. So be sure to find that on Facebook and check out the trailer, which was just released. Steve, I want to thank you for letting me record here, for participating in the first and final episodes, and for lending me the very table that we record on. So thank you.
Always a pleasure.
So there's more that I want to thank you for, but we'll save that for later. And last, but certainly not least, my fiancée, Stephanie, who heard the word podcast more than anyone should ever have to over the past 3 months, and never once complained, and was never anything other than sweet and supportive. So thank you to Stephanie as well. As far as the future of this show, I wish that I could say I had a specific plan or announcement to reveal right now. I don't, other than to say this. I have every hope and intention of continuing my comic shop history down the road. What I would like to do is return for a season 2 sometime in 2016. The show would obviously have a new focus. It wouldn't be about alternate realities anymore, but I've loved doing it, and the response really has been very positive, and people have been asking if the show will continue. So all I can say is this. If you've enjoyed this show, and if you would like to hear another podcast from me and from this group, please make sure that you connect with us on social media. Like My Comic Shop History on Facebook, follow me at Desi Westside on Twitter, and subscribe to My Comic Shop History on iTunes. So if you do any or all of those things, you will definitely hear the latest once a decision about the future of the show is made. So thank you guys for indulging me in that. The first thing that I sort of want to jump into is the title of the show. It's called My Comic Shop History, but that doesn't necessarily mean Anthony's comic shop history. And one of the things that I found over the course of doing this show is that everyone who comes in, there's a different part of their experience at the store that means a lot to them and that they talk about. So, for example, last week we had Metalhead on the show, Michael Kaplan, one of the former owners of the store. And the way that came about was he messaged me on Facebook and said, hey, no one's really talked about the late 90s. You're missing this big gap in alternate realities history. And I was like, oh, man. I'm like, all right, why don't you come on and we could talk about it. And he came on and he had some really great insights and observations. And there are a couple of things that I want to bring into this episode a little bit later on. But what was funny was, as far as the history aspect goes, much of what he talked about was how he used to ride his bike here when he was 14 and 15 years old. I only left a couple of those references in the episode, but during the recording, he said it, I think, about a dozen times, because that was his introduction to this world. And when he thinks back, that's what he thinks about, how he used to ride his bike here. So, Bill, I want to toss it to you first. Is there anything like that for you, either a period of time or a specific event or instance that you immediately think of when you think of your comic shop history?
It's funny you say that. Something that I think about all the time is, people always ask me, it's like, I tell them about the store. I tell them what it means to me, and I tell them about working at the store for many years. And, invariably it always comes to, well, how'd you get involved with the store? How'd you first go to the store? And I'll never forget, and I think about this all the time, calling Steve up. And I didn't know it was Steve, right? And I was in high school. I just started getting into anime. And I called this guy, Alternate Realities. Hey, do you have Project A-Co comic books? He's like, sure do. Come on down. And, I was a kid in high school. I wasn't driving. And I walked from my house. And, it's about, a 15-minute drive. I don't know how long it took me to walk there. Maybe 45 minutes or an hour or so. And that became a ritual for me. I would come and I would walk to the store. Something that I always think back at, you talk about being an employee, or you're a customer, an employee, and then this chronicler. I think about the times when I was just this kid in high school, just walking down the street. Can't wait to get to the comic book store and, bring my empty book bag, filling up with comic books and walking home. Back then I didn't hang out, but I'm sure I hung out for more than a regular customer would, because I just walked for an hour. It wasn't until later that I got a car, and I, drove and came and went as I pleased. But, over the years, the store has meant so much to me. And, certainly it went from that sort of engagement to, senior year in college, when I made my schedule on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I had all of my classes, so I could spend the other 5 days of the week here. I wasn't at home. I was, this became my, home away from home. It was my only home. And this was my family at that time. I saw Steve Oto more than anybody else in my life at that point. Actually, and it's true, because Leah went to school in, Leah's my wife, at the time just a girlfriend. She was in Carnegie Mellon. So, Steve Oto, for all intents and purposes, I saw you more than anybody else in my life, my senior year in college.
How does that make you feel, Steve?
I guess it's tough, because over 23 years, time just flies by, and yet at the same time, so many things happen, so many people come into my life and gone. The full impact of the store closing really hasn't hit me, because as far as I'm concerned, I've got to worry about getting these things to storage or selling the fixtures. coordinating the last bit of sales for people with special ordered items, letting the right people know, Verizon, Con Ed, all the distributors, changing addresses, changing emails. So even after the doors close, I know to me it's a different direction, but it's still a lot of work to be done. And so I really haven't had the time to be sentimental about things. And I know you guys have been talking a lot about the fact that they can't believe the store's closing. But I guess in recent days, a lot of people have been coming to say goodbye. And, over the years, I came to realize that many times when you say goodbye to somebody, it's really forever. You're never going to see them again. And when they come to you and you realize that you've seen them grow up, they have their children with them now, and when they tell you that this was a big part of their childhood, that they basically, like Bill says, grew up here, then it starts to affect me a little bit more. And suddenly, I understand what you guys are talking about when you're saying it had such a big impact. Right now, I guess I haven't thought about it, but it's now starting to dawn on me, and I guess later on maybe you had once in the first podcast talked about the legacy and regrets and such, and if we can touch on that a little later, that'd be good. But now I'm starting to realize that I guess I did have an effect on people, which I never really thought about much. To me, it was just kind of a day-to-day drudge. Got to get through this thing. Got to get these projects done.
There are a number of things you said there that I want to unpack, as we move forward through the episode. But just to sort of, set the scene, we are recording this at night after closing on Friday, June 26th, and the store closes on Tuesday, the 30th. It's funny. One thing that everyone has been asking me on and off mic is how I feel about the store closing, and I haven't really given much of an answer to that during the show. I figured I would save it for the last one, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's definitely very bittersweet, but I think more than anything, I feel at peace about it. The store has meant a lot to me over all of these years, and it's meant different things at different times. So at the beginning, when I was really an avid comic book reader, this was the place I got my comics. And over the years, I still enjoy comic books, but I don't read them with nearly the same regularity I used to. So it's not like my Wednesday routine is really going to be disrupted because I'm not here on Wednesday getting my comics. And then I started working here, and it was my job, but I haven't worked here now, for a little while. And again, even this podcast, this sort of the next phase that I entered here, where I did the documentary and the podcast, even that, sort of is ending. And, again, it is still that clubhouse, and I guess that's the saddest part, that we won't have that anymore. But if nothing else has come across in all of these episodes, I like to think it's the fact that these bonds of friendship are true and strong and transcend the physical space of 700 Central Park Avenue. And so I do believe, we'll see what actually happens, but I do believe that the dinners and the gatherings and all of that will continue. And I think we've all recognized, Steve, that this is the right move for you, that this isn't something you wish to do any longer. And so for your sake, for the store's sake, it seems like it's the right thing to do. So when people ask, how do you feel? It's sad, but it also feels right, and I feel at peace about it. I mean, how do you feel, Bill?
Bittersweet is exactly right. Will I miss the physical store, coming to the store, hanging out with the guys at the store? Sure. I mean, there's definitely going to be people that I'll miss, people that we'll lose touch with and never see again, and that's sad. Even for me, who I come in so infrequently, just hanging out on a Saturday, you don't know who's going to walk in, and it could be somebody you haven't seen in 5 years, and then all of a sudden it's like you reconnect, and it's the first, it's like no time has passed at all. And so I think I'm going to miss that aspect of the store. It's that social, the clubhouse, aspect. But also recognizing that, and I said it before, that the store has been kind of sick for a while. It hasn't been true to form. Certainly not when I was an employee here 12 years ago, for whatever reasons. And so I think that while I'm sad to see it go, I think it's been time. It's time, and I'm happy that Steve now is going to start the next phase of his life. And I know that's been put on hold for a long time. I know you recently got married, and I think that's, you're moving into a new phase that needs to be the priority. And for too long, I think the store has dominated your life. For all intents and purposes, it has to die so something else can live, right? I mean, that's what's happening.
And Bill, I want to thank you. We always talk about the community and the friendships and the dinners and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
You were really one of the main people who would first push me to go to dinner.
I tried for a long time. Not to interrupt you, but I tried to get for a long time to get you to come out with us. I remember you would zip in and zip out. You would buy your comics and go. And for me, that was the best part. It was like this hidden secret society within the society, to be invited to the dinners, to go to the dinners and see what that was all about. I'm glad that you eventually you became a part of that, and you certainly rose to it. on unbelievable levels, transcending that, what we ever did as a community.
But I will forever be grateful to you, to Steve, to the people here, and the store itself. I look back on the kid that I was when I first started coming here and even started working here to now. And
right, I would have been the guy ringing you up back
that's
then,
right.
when you think about it, right? I was the employee of the store at that time. It was me and my brother.
That's right. Little Bill.
Little Bill and Big Bill.
But I feel like I became more of myself through the store. And I really am forever grateful for that. And I thank you for introducing me to this larger world. And, a couple episodes ago, I had Zach Walliner on with a couple of other guys. We were talking comic books. And at the start of the episode, Zach gave me a gift of homemade Captain America wings. And if you want to know what that's about, listen to episode 10. But so in that episode, I was given a gift, and I believe in paying it forward. So, Bill, I have a little gift for you. Obviously, listeners can't see it, so we'll have to describe it.
It's exciting.
That rustling you hear is is me getting it out of the plastic bag that it's in. Close your eyes.
All right, I'm not looking.
Oh my God.
Open.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, you got it. I hope I didn't scream into the microphone. I was so upset when I saw this missing from the bathroom just the other day. So what Anthony passed me, to me, is one of the greatest stories ever. And it's a placemat beautifully done in crayon from Fridays by none other than Jeff Wong. And for listeners who want to see more about Jeff Wong, please watch Anthony's Comic Shop documentary, because he is the most legendary customer of the store ever. And, talking about dinners, for the longest time, Jeff was the manager. I think he was the manager. He was something.
I think he was the busboy.
He was the busboy, maybe,
Yeah.
at Fridays. And he would always encourage us to go to Fridays. And this was the time that we would go to Pizza and Brew all the time, nonstop. And he eventually got us to go. And he took care of us. He did a great job. He sat us all down. And we invited him to sit with us. And I don't know if that he was working that night or not, but he sat with us. And, he didn't contribute so much to the conversations. And, like previous people have talked about it on some of these episodes, that we don't talk about comic books. We just talk about other things. And he really wasn't contributing. But the whole time, he was drawing this placemat. It was a child's placemat with crayons. And, it's got one of those matching columns, like match the animal to, like, the paw print. And, it's beautifully done. And, Brandon was there at the time. And he's like, hey, Jeff, sign it. And he signed it. And he wrote Jeff.H. which is, how he's in my phone as Jeff.H. It's like one of the most, amazing stories. I mean, that was, the cream, I can't even believe you had that. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It's so
there's not many things hanging on my wall. I'm going to put that on my wall. It'll make me smile every day to see that.
Well, it's funny, there's a treasure trove of inside jokes hanging on the wall of the bathroom at Alternate Realities.
Right, I should have mentioned that before, that where it was missing was the wall of the bathroom. I didn't see it. I came in specifically looking for it to make sure nobody, loses it in the shuffle.
About a week ago, I said, because I wanted to give you something, and I was like, oh, this will be perfect.
This is perfect.
And so I carefully peeled it off the wall of the bathroom, sealed it very, very tightly in a comic book bag, and and I had it framed, and
thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. But it was funny, earlier today, you're like, oh man, did you know where the placemat went? And I'm like, I don't know.
Played it off well.
I don't have many regrets about this podcast, but one really big one is that I couldn't get Jeff Wong on here.
I know, we tried.
And you and I really tried. We were
tried.
texting him. We
He
tried
was
calling
responding,
him.
and then he stopped.
He actually did respond.
He responded.
Oh, wow.
So to the listeners out there who might have seen the documentary and were hoping for a Jeff Wong appearance on this, I really do apologize. I tried. Steve, when's the last time you saw Jeff?
It's got to, well, again, time flies. I have no idea. I'm going to say it's been at least a year, maybe more. If you do see him, tell him he owes me $500.
I will.
Okay.
Is it for pornography?
No, not just porn. This is G.I. Joe and his Power Ranger toys.
And that's the magic of Jeff.
Yes.
That's true. I mean, sadly, though, for as legendary as he is, he went the way of a lot of people in and around the world of alternate realities. He one day disappeared. Where do you guys think he is? What do you think he's doing? Because Jeff Wong very famously, for those who are unfamiliar, Jeff Wong very famously, again, as Bill, as you said, he worked at TGI Fridays, but he claimed to be a member of this elite SWAT-like team.
Strike Force.
And to have killed no less than 25 people in the line of duty.
He had a very definitive answer when you asked him how many people he
Yes.
killed. I mean, it was right there.
It was like, how many do you think you've killed? He goes, 25. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
He doesn't think. He knows.
He knows.
So what do you guys think he's up to?
You think he was killed in action or captured?
I think he's a busboy
He's being-
someplace else.
He's being tortured.
Well, Jeff, if you're out there,
He's not listening.
Yeah, one of the lost AR members.
But I'm sure he ranks amongst many, Steve. That you've you talk about people coming and going. I'm sure there's a lot of people that obviously like me and Anthony, we come and never leave. But there's got to be a lot of people that you wish you would be able to get in touch with. And so how do you see yourself getting in touch with these people now? Do you see yourself maintaining relationships not only with us but other people that you've met throughout the years?
Well, when you say get in touch, you mean the people who owe me money?
No, not necessarily. I mean, do you consider yourself friends with us and other people? Regular customer. Are you friendly enough with maybe stay in touch with?
I believe I will stay in touch with a bunch of people. I had that form that I asked people to fill out that if you want to stay in touch with me, just fill out this form with name and your phone number or email address. And in the bottom half was the part that they would take home with it as my information. And I've encouraged people to go to the Alternate Realities site on Facebook and in my own personal Facebook page and friend me, because every now and then, now that I don't have the store to worry about and take up all my time, once I get my own personal life back together a little bit, then I can spend the time to go back on Facebook and keep people apprised of what's going on in life. I'm going to enjoy life a little bit more, I think, from a social aspect.
Now, shifting a little bit, when your wife, Anne, was on the show, she mentioned that she and Evan warned you against listening to the other episodes in this podcast. Is that correct? And did you follow their advice?
Yeah, not just Anne and Evan. Different customers have actually said to me, you don't want to hear this. So I was like, okay. I figure I'll wait till it's all done. And
And that's surprising, because I don't think anything's been said that's so
I've been told
upsetting.
basically it was like people, it's like, was it Monday morning quarterbacking, that they can now talk about how, that I didn't do these things right, or that I guess I didn't do it the way they would have done it. And I'm thinking to myself, the only people who really seem to understand how difficult running a retail operation is, especially a one-man operation, is another store owner. I guess for a lot of people, it's like, you come in, you buy your books, it's how difficult is it to bring somebody up? They don't understand all the aspects of running a business.
Well, I would offer this. I mean, if you ultimately never listen to these, so be it. That's perfectly fine. But, I would argue that the opinions that have been offered, have there been critiques? Yes, no doubt about it. But the goal, and I think for the most part we achieved this, was to be a little more analytical about it rather than merely critical or merely being a Monday morning quarterback. And I mean, not to get lawyerly, but in your closing announcement and in your first episode, you implicated certain store policies. You discussed them. You gave your reasoning for them, in effect, sort of opening the door. And other guests came on and offered their opinion. And I mean, I really haven't addressed this personally very much over the course of these episodes. Again, I was sort of saving it for the end, but nothing said was malicious or a personal attack. There were some people who sided with you with respect to certain policies. We had Paul Barrero on, who's the owner of the Spider's Web, and there were a couple of things where he was like, "No, I learned that from Steve." So it's not just everybody coming in and piling on, and we certainly all, recognize how difficult it is to run any small business, especially a comic book shop. And the other thing is, and let me finish this because you might jump in here. But the other thing is, and Bill, I want to get your take on this because I don't necessarily want to speak for everyone, but maybe the way I feel and maybe the way I think some other people feel is that we have a certain degree, we feel a certain degree of quote-unquote ownership, and I don't use that literally. We all recognize that this is your store, and Drew said this, Drew Cheskin, former owner, said this in his episode, that ultimately the decisions, good or bad, they rest on your shoulders. You have the risk, you have the reward, it all lies on you. So we recognize that. However, every single person who has been on the show has either owned the store at some point, worked here, or volunteered, and put in a lot of time and effort. So we do feel a certain investment in the store's success and in your well-being. I mean, what do you think, Bill?
No, absolutely. Talking about ownership, not in the literal sense. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it speaks towards what this place means to all of us, and we all wanted to see it succeed. And I don't think any of us really thought this would ever come to an end. I think we all thought that this was just going to be here forever, for better or worse. You always want to take take stock, take ownership in what you love. And certainly we all love this place in such a sense that we feel like, even from the very act of buying the books and supporting the store to actually physical, labor that, we would contribute, and, any number of things. Yeah, I mean, I think that's in a very literal sense. We feel a part of this. We're all in it together. And I think the dinners helped really solidify that, the community that we base. I mean, the very fact that you can just hang out on a Saturday and, for everybody who's just hanging out, take any customer that's friendly enough to come out to dinner with us, hang out with us. You ask them, hey, you mind bagging these books for us? Yeah, they would jump at that chance. They'd be happy to, because we all feel that. We all feel this loyalty, this love.
If there has been any frustration, I think maybe what it stems from, again, is that we care. So if we see you struggling in any sense with the store, and we hear about you struggling, because you're not shy about that. But so if we see you struggling and we hear you struggling, but maybe you're not availing yourself of our assistance or advice or someone else's, I think that's where while we recognize that it's ultimately up to you, it can be difficult for those of us, especially those on the inside. But the question that I have, I'm happy to hear whatever you want to say about this, but the specific question that I have, and this is something as well as I know you and as many times as I've had you in front of a camera or a microphone, I don't quite know exactly how you would answer this. Do you know that these critiques or these criticisms, that they come genuinely from a good place? Or do you look at it as like these guys are talking about stuff they don't know?
I guess it's both. It's got to be both. I always say there's more than one reason for things. I guess I feel like, it's, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into keeping this place going. A lot of sacrifice. And I guess the general feeling, I'll say generally, the average person who really has no conception, but is happy to put their 2 cents in. It's like, I don't need their 2 cents.
But now I'm not really talking about those people. Yeah. I mean us.
Yeah, but and well, my personality. It's really hard for me to take criticism when I feel like I'm giving it 100%, 110%. But I guess it's I don't know that not to be cold or insulting. Maybe I haven't given a tremendous amount of thought. Again, I've got too many things on my mind to worry about, what people say, and I guess I'm at an age where I'm getting to be like Jay. I don't really care what other people think. I think as you get older, you kind of understand that everybody else's opinion doesn't mean anything after a while. And then, so when you're just in waiting, it's God's waiting room. That's just waiting for the big sleep. And I feel like I've come to that point where I'm almost welcoming that, where I don't have to have any more problems.
You've been saying death is the ultimate release for a long time.
Yes, and I think I'm right. I'm saying it again a lot.
So, one other way I guess I would ask the question is, in the first episode, I had you respond to some of your Facebook critics. One of the things that I think you kept coming back to was, well, they don't know what they're talking about. So I guess
I still think that.
And about them, but with respect to the people who have been on the show, I mean, do you see or feel any distinction between our group and those people? Or is it just like just another bunch of complainers?
I guess, again, I didn't think about it. I haven't thought about it. I guess the impact has been, I'm just getting hit by snowballs left and right. And it doesn't matter who's throwing them right now. It's just, I got so much going on that
Well, if you think about it now,
Do I think? Oh, you want me to think about it now?
Right now.
it's the finale. This is
Tomorrow's too late.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I understand,
Well,
especially now. Now that so many people have come by to say goodbye. They're taking photographs with me, asking me to sign a comic book, and they're crying as they're saying goodbye. And these are just the regular customers. When I say goodbye to you guys, if I ever do, I think we'll be bawling. But yes, I understand that there's a difference. However, I also feel like, and again, it's hard for me to comment since I didn't listen to the podcast.
right.
Obviously there are some people in the past who are related to the store with whom I don't get along. And I feel like of all the people who would criticize me, I would think they take this as a wonderful opportunity to do so.
You know what? There's one person. I'm sorry to cut you off, but there's one person I assume you're speaking of, Matt Casey, former employee. Bill, I want to get your take because I didn't feel that he really played into exactly what you're describing. I mean, what was your take on it?
Again, like you had brought up, I think a lot of the criticisms have come from a good place. And Anthony, what he's trying to get out is, basically the people who worked at this store maybe have a little bit more of an intimate knowledge of how things are done. And I think that guides a lot of the criticism. And they're not really criticism so much as, certainly opinions that, if this was the policy, stick to the policy and things like that. And I don't think Matt said anything that was too, I don't remember him saying anything that was too crazy, although it's wild. What was his episode, 2 or 3?
He was 4. Yeah, he was early on.
Yeah, so early on, I distant memory right now. I don't remember exactly.
But if you're thinking of
it wasn't the same as the documentary. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're thinking of the Matt in the documentary, it was different. This was a person who was a few years
he's older,
removed.
Right? He's now married. He's got a different job. I mean, I think the Matt that you caught on film was a very angry person at the time. Angry about maybe the wounding that he had at the store for whatever reason, but was definitely a lot fresher in his mind, and he had an axe to grind, and that came out on film. Whereas he's a different person. He's speaking from a different place now.
No, from I understand what you're getting at, and I understand that you guys, especially the inner circle, I'll say, has a more of a vested interest is really not the way I want to phrase it.
Interest for sure.
Yeah,
and you're surrounded by very intelligent people.
Yeah,
don't get
Yeah, I mean everybody here has a graduate degree of some sort. We're overqualified, but I guess that maybe that's why it's also frustrating because the number of people we have to deal with who aren't very intelligent. Let's face it. I mean, 95% of the people that shop here, I will miss them. They're good people, and so many of them came by to say goodbye, just to say goodbye.
Did that surprise you? You seem surprised by that.
I have to admit, in the past few days, I was a little surprised. People I hadn't seen in a long time just came by to say.
I'm not surprised at all.
It just, I didn't realize I had that much of an impact.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, you guys do have, I don't want to say standing to criticize or to put in your 2 cents.
I think the reason people have voiced their opinion is because, like Anthony had said, we all have this interest in the store, almost that feeling of ownership. And certainly, hey, if I was an owner, this is how I would do things, and this is how I do different things differently. I don't think anybody has come out and said, oh well, he's an idiot for doing it this way, and I would do it this way. It's always been, this is how I would do it, and in some cases it's pretty logical. Some of the things that have been brought up.
Not to harp on this, but I think what maybe might be fueling some of it is, again, this, what launched this whole creative endeavor is the fact that the store is closing. So, Bill, you tell me what you think. Maybe part of it is we're sad the store is closing, and the feeling is like, well, if you had done this or that or the other thing,
maybe it wouldn't be closing.
Right.
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
you would have had more free time and you would have kept the store going. I think that's probably behind a
lot of
good
it.
bit of it.
That's possible. I don't know that I would have. I mean, you know how much I'm paying in rent.
Mm-hmm.
It's twice as much as everybody out here. I mean, he kept raising it every year. Besides, so not that the store is struggling. I mean, honestly, I could keep the store going if I had to, but I was tired, and I always felt like, again, while 95% of people are great, look at our reserves and how many people have screwed us over.
Okay, this is great because somebody brought this up early on in one of the episodes. Was that basically, if you're tired and you don't want to do this anymore, that's fine. Say that rather than come out and say, well, it's everybody else's fault but mine. I mean, nobody's saying it's your fault at all, but instead of saying that, say, listen, I've done this for 23 years. It's time for me to move on.
Well, I guess I feel like it's a combination again. I've done this for 23 years. I'm tired. At the same time, maybe I wouldn't be so tired if people didn't screw me over
so
so much.
But that's fair. But
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, yeah.
would you agree? Is it fair to say that maybe the closing announcement was a bit disingenuous in this sense that maybe, you know, singling out the customers who, as you said, left you in the lurch, that maybe that was just, again, symptomatic of a larger frustration? Because it's like closing the store because people don't pick up their stuff, like that's not really a proportionate response. That's like the nuclear option. It's like a few people didn't pick up their stuff, I'm closing.
Well, that's Steve.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
But at the same time, you have to understand that I listed, half a dozen people. That's just at that particular point in time. Over 23 years, that half a dozen was actually a few hundred. And we're not talking about people leaving me $20 or $50 debts. We're talking about $300, $500, $600. These are people who say they're going to come and pick it up. You call them and say, oh, I'll be in. And then they never come. Or their phone is suddenly disconnected. Or you call the one guy and says, oh, you know what? I don't want it anymore. That was $197. So anyway, and I don't forget. Steve Oto never forgets. So, I mean, obviously, when we closed somebody's account, I wrote down what they left us with and how much it was, so that I always have this information.
So, you know, what you just mentioned implicates a couple of the store policies, and I don't really want to get bogged down in that because you discussed that in your first episode. It's been discussed, but, you know, with respect to, again, enforcing your reserve policy or taking deposits, but credit where credit is due, Steve Oto. I am truly impressed by the way you have sold and moved the fixtures out of the store because you priced them to move, you required a down payment, and you imposed a deadline by which they had to be removed from the store. You did a bang-up job.
But we only sold half of it.
I don't think that's entirely true.
I had to give the other half away.
But there you go. There it is. But you gave it away. You don't donate comic books.
I do. You don't know that. I do donate comic books.
To the school?
To different schools, libraries, charitable organizations. Sure. In fact, one of the guys who came by to say goodbye it works with the New York public school system. So I said, sure, we'll stay in touch. You know, when I get this stuff organized, I'll have tons of stuff to give to you.
All right. Did you know he did that?
Actually, I didn't know that, Steve.
I do all kinds of stuff you guys don't know.
I'm sure you do. Tell us. Well, that's the thing. You know, I feel like I know you well, but maybe I don't know you well. I mean, I don't know if you share a lot about your personal life, for better or worse.
You know, there's that old Japanese expression, like Japanese have three faces. They have the face that they show to the world. They have the face that they show to their closest friends and family. And then they have their true face, which nobody sees. But
do you worry that first face, the face that people see, is going to, you know, impact the future of, you know, your relationships with people? Do you feel that the friends really know that you're friends with them, or do you feel that you've been standoffish so much so that these people are afraid to contact you or stay in touch with you because they don't really know necessarily how they stand?
No, I think I've always been friendly to the people that I think are good people that I'd like to stay friends with. And again, there's that pile of papers there. People have left me their information to stay in touch. It's not to sell them stuff. It's just because they want to stay in touch.
No, absolutely.
Again, call it the inner circle. I figure that we'll all stay close for a while anyways. But I mean, on a downer, I guess after I just turned 59, after all these years, I've found that as time goes on, life goes on, and everybody has their own thing going. And sooner or later, I don't want to say sooner or later, but as time goes on, the closeness and the connections won't be as strong as they are today or they were a year or 5 years ago. I mean, look at all the guys who used to hang out here all the time, much like you guys, but like, well, I'll say Roby. You know, I miss Roby. You know, as a kid who watched through high school, grow up from high school, college, went off, was a paralegal for a little bit, decided to fly off to Australia, and basically moved back to Seattle or someplace, and we never see him, never hear from him. But he was a fixture of this place. And even Brian O'Day, you know, he was a guy who was here all the time. When we had that big blackout on the East Coast, and he got home from work, and there's no power in New York at all, he came here. They sat outside playing Magic till the sun went down. Then they all turned on their headlights and faced the store so they can continue to play in the night. I mean, you know, this was a place for him to come to. Now we never see the guy.
Are you hurt by that in any way?
No, because I understand that people, you know, things move on. I mean, I love Steph. She's great. But now that you're going out with Steph, we don't see that much. Drew got married. Drew used to be here all the time.
True.
You know, and he married a great girl. It was a great wedding. But yeah, I understand it. You know, he's got to coordinate buying a new apartment and doing the construction work and all that, and he's got things to do. Yeah, it's life.
I know you've often described it as being a school teacher, and I do think that's an apt comparison. And to sort of take it a step further, you know, a school teacher in the sense that, you know, people come through and they might be part of the store and the community for a period of time, and then they move on to, you know, the next stage of their life. And again, to take it a little bit further, because I do think about this, you know, we're all optimistic that, again, the dinners will continue and all of that, but you know, there's always the chance that it could be like when you graduate school and, you know, you're with all your classmates. It's like, oh, we'll keep in touch. I'll see you soon. And then for whatever reason, it doesn't happen. So, you know, I mean, what do you feel?
Well, look, I mean, me and Drew met through this store, and I think we're best friends. And I talk to him all the time. You know, and, you know, I don't have, you know, as many close relationships with other people from the store, but I feel like, you know, Anthony, if I call you, we can have a great conversation for like 2 hours on the phone. And it's like, you know, again, like no time has passed and we're having a great conversation. And I think, you know, in the absence of the store facilitated all this. And, you know, certainly the ease to know exactly where to find these people, when to find these people. I think it'll be a little harder.
I just want to follow up on this idea of keeping in touch because, so I had Metalhead on last week and he made a couple of interesting observations. And Steve, I really want to get your take on this because he sort of binged the whole podcast and he had a couple of observations. And one of them was that a number of people in the podcast have said they're not sure if they'll see you after this, at least on a regular.
Me personally.
You personally, yeah.
Okay.
Even Jay Mizell in that same episode, I had Jay in a separate conversation, and you know, here's a guy who's been having lunch with you every Monday and Thursday for years. And Doug and I asked him, like, "Are you going to see Steve after the store closes?" He goes, "I don't know." But I mean, does it strike you as odd that people are unsure, and that they're also like they're not surprised that they might not see you?
Well, I guess it's again one of those things where it's so far ahead to me that I haven't thought about it. Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously there'll be no regularity since there's no store to come to. But
no, but I mean, not so much will we see you, but I mean more just this idea of like people are really saying like, I don't know if we'll see Steve again. Does that strike you as odd or no?
Maybe a little odd. I mean, I guess if nothing else, I think it's you guys when you move on to your let's say next stage of life. So, you know, will we stay in touch? I hope so. But do I need to know everything in your personal life? Post some puppy pictures on something on Facebook, and I'll be happy to look at your little videos. That's all.
I think I'll be more apt to contact you now that the store is gone, only because, you know, I'm always afraid to call you or text you. I texted you the other day. You said texting on Wednesday, you know? And, you know, and I think that's a genuine concern that I always have when I think about you and I think about talking to you. Like, you know, I know he's busy. You know, I don't want to bother him. Oh. And, you know, maybe I'll bother you more often now.
Okay. All right.
I called Jay the other day, and he's like, "Why are you calling me?" So I just want to chat. He's like, "You don't need it." He's very strict, you know, weirded out by the fact that I would just want to shoot the shit with him on the phone. Not to sow any salt, but in your announcement, you declared victory.
Oh, yeah.
Jay outlived you. He's still running.
Yeah, I know.
He's still running strong with that job.
Well, technically he's
so he's got an asterisk.
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing is like as far as a physical location. But anyway, I guess I look at it and say we were the last real comic book store where it's not, you know, half gaming or not half sport cards. We were just a comic book store with trades and hardcovers, statues, action figures, all related to this stuff, and a huge variety of comics. I'm not putting a plug in for the store, but I was very proud of that we had a lot of stuff.
Speaking of being proud, I mean, what else are you proud of with respect to the store?
My legacy?
What do you consider your legacy?
Well, we talked about this before, and I guess again, you caught me by surprise when you asked me the first one, because it's not something that I think about. I guess I had time to think about it. You know what? I guess it only struck me, in the past couple of weeks when people started coming in here and talking about how much the store has meant to them. I know a lot of these people on a personal basis. You know, I know when somebody's wife has gotten sick, or I know when death in the family, or, you know, they're off to vacation or something like that. But, for them to come by and say goodbye, and I realized that it's not so much the store, but it's the people, the lives that are affected. After the store's gone, and realistically, after I'm gone, somewhere along the way, some people will think back and say, "Oh, I remember Steve Oto."
Steve, that's your legacy.
Yeah, that's
right there. That's the legacy.
Yeah, the people are my legacy. And it's like, what? I guess I didn't do such a bad job. So I'm very happy about that. You guys are my legacy. I'm gonna start crying. You two, we had a lot of good kids come through the store. Like, I don't know if I name names, but number 30, he's a good kid. High school, he went to college, went to medical school, and he's a doctor. He's married. I've known him for a long time. His parents did a really good job raising him. Number 82, is a kid, again, junior high school. He's a cop now. He's a good kid, married. You're glad to have known them. But you two are kind of special to me because, I don't know if you remember when you applied to law school and I filled out the application. And I wrote to them and I said, because my father knew you both well, but in your case, he had said to me once, we should adopt Anthony. Which, for my father, who's a very strict, old-fashioned guy, that's an incredible compliment to you.
And I took it as such and was very honored. I mean, Bill and I both, held your father in the highest regard.
But I remember writing that on the application saying, listen, if my father says that about this kid, you want him for your law school. And, again, I've watched you grow up from a little kid, in high school, and, college and law school. And then you, Bill, high school, college, graduate school. You're a professor, for God's sakes now. The fact that you've done the movie and all the writings that you've done, and now this podcast, and the fact that you come all the way from New Mexico to help us move and close out. It's I gotta tell you, I'm so proud of you guys.
Steve, I love you, man.
Yeah.
I love you too.
I
love both you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
You like your family should be very proud of you. I've always been proud of you.
Thanks, Steve.
You're my legacy.
Were we not talking about at lunch how Steve was like a father?
Absolutely. And I wrote an email recently to the whole group. I said, Harry was our grandfather. He really was.
So proud of you guys.
Oh, thank you. So when I wrote your reference on your gun application, I wrote that you were like a second father.
Thank you for that. So again, as far as legacies, I'm proud of what the store was and what it meant for people. Proud of the guys that came out of it, and I know you guys are going to be great people, and whether I'm around or not doesn't really matter. You're going to go do good things.
When you started this 23 years ago, I'm sure you didn't even know any of this would have happened.
No, I just thought it was cool to have a comic book store. Yeah. How wrong I was.
Since we're getting emotional, Steve, I you referenced the documentary and all the other stuff I did. I did feel hurt when you did the other documentary. And I know you can justify why, but on a personal level, and just, again, like going into this whole thing of what the store has meant to us and my time here doing the movie, professionally, creatively, like I got a lot out of it, no doubt about it. But, at the end of the day, it meant a lot to me for a very, very personal reason. And I did and do feel hurt.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry about that. I guess the way I had looked at it was, in a way, your documentary, I guess, is the definitive documentary of the store because it covered all the people and the different aspects of it, what made Alternate Realities what it was. But my thinking is like, if there are 100 documentaries about the store, it doesn't matter. Yours was the definitive one, and nobody else is close enough to understand the heart of it, the people. And it's obviously now, as we're saying, it's the people that made this store. I apologize to you. I'm sorry that it hurt you. I guess it made me very uncomfortable.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. But let's face it, your documentary was incredible. I don't know. Did you happen to tell him about that? The meeting of the guy?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the guy saw it.
Yeah.
Bill, you met a comic shop owner in, where was it?
So, Brad, if you're listening, so in El Paso, Texas, Lee and I, live in New Mexico. We go to El Paso all the time. And I'm always in search for a new comic book store. Talking about buying comic books anywhere, it's not the same. But, sometimes you just need a fix. And every comic book store in that Southwest area has been very disappointing. And so when we found a new comic book shop, we passed a new comic shop, I ran in and I said, let me just check it out. It's going to be probably disappointing. And, I opened the door and I closed it immediately. I got Leah and Logan, my son, out of the car and I said, you got to come in here. It's a real comic book store. And sure enough, it was. And, we talked to the owner for about a half hour or so before we got, he'd asked me, how do you know so much about comics? I said, well, I worked at a comic shop for many years. He said, oh, yeah, where at? I said, oh, it's up in New York. He said, I just saw a documentary about a comic shop up in New York with this Chinese guy.
Because we all look alike. Yeah.
And it was really funny, it was a surreal experience having a conversation an intelligent conversation about you with somebody who's never met you and just saw the documentary. It was pretty amazing. And he got a lot out of it. He had a lot of interesting insights and questions about, the business and how you run things and about your clientele. He was very inquisitive about your clientele.
Like Jeff Wonka's a crazy?
No. Wanting to know, about the age group that you see up here in New York. Is it different or the same that he sees? Things like that.
Well, this has been cathartic. I mean, I'm glad we talked about it. I mean, because I have addressed this just briefly a couple of times in other episodes, and I actually talked about it in the last episode. And, what I said was, and I meant it then and I mean it now, is even though I was hurt by it, it didn't erase everything that's come before. And that's, why I was here today. I want to talk about today and what the past few weeks have been like with the move out and everything. But that's why I was here today, because, that's, it just doesn't go away.
Well, I guess, again, maybe it's, I don't think about it, but I always thought we're kind of like family. And you always have, my father, you guys were witness to some of the fights I had with my father. But I love that man. Mm-hmm. I miss him every day. Life is so hard without him. He's been gone 5 years. But you don't stop loving somebody about that,
No.
That's, we have our disagreements, butt heads.
Every time I make a box, I hate to say it, I think of your father. Your father was the first person to show me how to make a box. And I think of him all the time.
Yeah.
I remember one time, I think this was when I probably late high school, or maybe it was going into law school, I forget exactly, but it was a Wednesday before you showed up with the delivery, and he told me if I needed help paying for school, he would help me. That was just that generosity was just in everything he did. So we, all, love and miss him terribly. On a lighter note, so I've always maintained this. So on Wednesday, so one of the things that your dad would do is he would help on Wednesdays with the new shipment, the breakdown, and you would always tell him, don't break down the outer box until we check for damages, because if books are damaged, we might have to note which box it was. And he would always break it down the second he could. And I still maintain that was his way of having a little bit of fun. I don't think he forgot. I think he knew. It was just his thing. And I loved it.
It's very possible. It's very possible. For all those people out there, if your dads are still alive, listen to what they have to teach you. Learn as much as you can. Because one day you're going to have a question and you would say, gee, I'll wait for him to come home. Mm-hmm. I'll ask him. And it's not going to happen.
In terms of being emotional, it's funny because, I want to shift and sort of talk about these final days of the store and what comes next. But, we've been watching the store empty out. And it reminds me very much of a year ago when my parents sold my childhood home. And, week after week, it got emptier and emptier. And then that final day, I stayed behind after everyone else left. And I took 15 minutes to myself. And I just went room to room. And it was cathartic, eerie. It's like you see everything. Mm-hmm. You see all those memories, everything you've experienced, and that's sort of what I feel like here. I don't know if it's 100% hit me yet. I think once it's completely empty, it will. And I don't know. I'll see all those things. I'll see, myself bagging and boarding back issues, or putting a new stack of comics on the wall, or most of all, I think. I don't know, standing behind the register, leaning on the register, and talking to someone while I ring them up, or leaning against the bookcase as we gather here, before dinner.
Right.
What do you see, Bill?
I mean, everything you bring up. I mean, I don't think it's it either. And I think a large part of that is because the fixtures are still in place. I think once these, are mostly gone, I think it'll all sink in. It's right now it's empty. It's emptying. But when it's empty, I don't know what I'm going to feel.
I mean, I lived here when
We all lived here.
Well, no, but I meant literally when after Hurricane Sandy, when my house didn't have power and there was a tree on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I spent, and I didn't sleep here, but I was here. You know, I would come when you were closing, and I would stay after you left and watch TV and use the internet, and and I'd go home very late just to go to sleep. I was here when I got my bar exam results. It was during that time.
Yeah.
I have slept here. I used to. That's the thing, the dedication to the stores. I would come here, it would be a blizzard, but I had a sleeping bag, and I figured there's an A&P supermarket next door.
Yeah.
I had heat, I had television, I had a microwave in the back. So I could cook, and I said, you know what? I can bag books all night long. And I would do it till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, sleep on the floor, and not worry about, getting killed on the road. Never do that. If you own a comic book store, never do that. Just go home. It's not worth it.
This isn't even in the same league as either of those stories, but, I remember I had got my wisdom teeth taken out, and the next day I came to work here. I was in pain. I had 2 Mountain Dew cans on my face, because I was like, I got this. I could do this. And I went home later that night, and then you and Drew came over. You guys had bought me a piece of tiramisu, and you came over and hung out with me for a few minutes.
Bill, I mean, I have to say, that story doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me what you've done in these closing days, which we'll talk about in a second. But I would argue, and Steve, you weigh in on this, I don't think anyone else's love for the store, as much as we all do love it, I think, you're at the top there.
I agree.
Yeah, I love this place.
I mean, you came all the way in from New Mexico to help us move.
I wish I came earlier.
If you and quite frankly, again, both of you, without your help today, moving so much stuff, I don't think we could have done it. I've actually said this to Anne at the end of Wrath of Khan, when the Enterprise is hobbling away from the Reliant, it's about to blow up. Sulu looks and goes, "We're not going to make it, are we?" And that's really the way I felt the past couple of days. And I say, geez, because I've been packing this stuff, moving it over to storage, putting it in storage, trying to coordinate it so it's some sort of order on the other end. But it was like a one-man job. And when you came in to help, and you pushed me, actually, to let's get a little bit more in, let them more in. I thought at the pace you're going to burn out by midday. But and then when you showed up with all those muscles,
they're pretty big.
What's the point of lifting all these weights if I can't move some long boxes? But Bill, I mean, you came straight from the airport.
From the airport, directly from the airport to this store with Leah in the car. I mean, we came directly from we dropped off Logan, or Leah's mother picked us up. We dropped Logan off. We took the car, came right here. We ate lunch really quick, and we started working. I started working.
I mean, so you were here yesterday. You got here 7 o'clock this morning. So you really put in a full day. I came in the afternoon. I wasn't going to miss this.
This is
even if I was mad at you, I still wasn't going to miss this. But we had a
today was a great day.
We had a full day. It was fun.
Today was a great day.
So all right. So we got to set this up. Because again, when people hear about the store, again, the 2 questions: why is he closing? We've addressed that, and the other big question: what is he going to do next? So, do you want to just give? What are you going to do? What is the plan?
My plan is to try to organize it such that I can every day. Again, whether this works or not, I don't know. But every day, I like to take maybe 2 dozen items and list them on eBay. I'll just take a big mug of ice water and a little sandwich, and go over to the warehouse every day.
The warehouse where
we store
are moving and have moved by this point most of the stock.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's so much stuff. We've had to take a 3rd room out, and
you have 3 storage units at Westies.
I'm their best customer. They love me. They see me every day.
Yeah, when we were done today, they gave us bottles of water.
Yeah,
it was great.
But and again, I look at everything and said it's all been paid for. I'd have no more overhead except for these warehouse rooms. So
the storage units are not.
They're not
cheap.
But again, if I coordinate well, I should be able to do it right. I mean, I'll put out. I'll put out, like, let's say, $100 statue, and I'm not going to look to get $100 for it. I'm not going to look for $90. I'll just put it out for, say, here's $55. Get my money back or whatever it is, but just free up it's so much product. There's enough product to, even at 25 items a day, 5 days a week, so I can actually take a Saturday, Sunday off. Right now I say it's going to take me 2 years, but as I've learned with when we were estimating how much space we need for this, you got to double anything you estimate. So I'm thinking 4 years to actually clear out all those rooms.
I mean, you basically set up a store there. So what we moved to the warehouse today were all of the long and short boxes underneath the back issue bins and in the back room containing overstock trade paperbacks and back issues. How many boxes do you think we moved?
I don't even know, Steve.
It's got to be hundreds.
Hundreds. Easily hundreds.
Yeah.
But you essentially set up stores. So for the listeners, I took pictures and a little bit of iPhone video of these units. So I'll be posting those on the Facebook page so people can see what we're talking about. But it's organized extremely well.
And it looks like the comic shop.
Looks better than the comic shop.
It looks like the shop.
It looks better than the shop.
It looks better.
Yeah.
It's organized better.
Yeah.
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 But I mean, basically, so between having all of the merchandise, essentially almost paying rent, it's like you still have the store, but not the people.
Not the people.
The rent is a fraction of the rent. And yes, maybe I'll drag Jay along once in a while, so it'll be like old times. So, but yeah, I plan to post about, say, 25 items a day. If they average at $5 to $10 a piece, I figured that maybe we're looking at getting about $1,000 or so a week. And that's more than enough to take care of the rent and free up some cash.
Now, Bill, you've done your fair share of eBaying.
Mm-hmm.
How does that sound?
Yeah, I think 25 is a lot, but I've never eBayed with nothing else to do. Always have a full-time job, full-time, being married with a kid. I think you're, underestimating the time for packing, for shipping, going to the post office, things like that. Because not everything that will they pick up. But I think it's going to get done. I think you're the kind of person who's going to get it done. I just like you told me today, in terms of not trying to do too much at once. Maybe start off small and work your way up to the 25, and see how it goes.
That's the difference, I think. And as you say, you have a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be my full-time
Right.
job.
Yeah.
And it seems like you want that because you probably could have blown more stuff out here or tried to find a wholesaler for some of it. Are you looking forward to going through everything and listing it and selling it?
Yeah, I used to say that one of the joys of having a comic book store was that you don't know what you have. You kind of know it's within this 1,500 square feet, but I have no idea where it is.
What's the best thing you found during these final weeks?
These weeks? Those Avengers that you found this morning.
That was crazy. Avengers 10 and 11 just sitting on a box.
Yeah, not even in a bag on a board.
Just there. Just hanging out in some box of back issues.
Years ago we found a Fantastic Four number 6 at the bottom of a milk crate. It was like a pile of stuff, and the last book on the pile was FF4. No bag and board. It was just the plastic grating making a nice impression into the back cover. But, you come across all kinds of weird stuff. And I kind of look forward to going through these boxes and saying, oh, there it is. I knew we had one. If only I could remember who wanted that 20 years ago.
If you don't mind me asking, how ballpark, how much are you spending on those 3 units?
The basic unit we had was $670 a month, 300 square feet. The second unit we took is roughly $850 a month, also 300 square feet. However, it's located closer to the loading dock and has a lift gate door. But I was able to get enough of a deal that it works out to be some $500 and change average over 6 months. So that's why my goal is to clear out that second room before the end of the year. And that's why I put only the big things in there that I can just slap a tag on and get rid of, not the individual comic books. The third room is 100 square feet, runs about 300 and change. The 100 square foot room is only a temporary staging area for me, where we just threw everything in today. I hope that over the next 30 days I can slowly dribble that into the main room so that I can get rid of that third room.
The main room also includes a couple of Oto family chairs and an old television. Just between us, the 3 of us here and the listeners, but the 3 of us here. You planning to live here? I'm a little worried. Are you?
I wanted to have a comfortable chair in the warehouse. I figure I'm going to spend a lot of hours there. It's a lot of sentimentality too. We had that big TV, 27-inch TV, which way back, used to be like $1,000 TV, and it's just one of these big monster, weighs a ton type of machines. I honestly, you know, I was thinking about bringing it here when we have our give it away. You know, everything sells for $1 sale.
That's tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Saturday.
And I really wonder, would anybody buy this antique? Not antique, but you know,
Was it 90s?
yeah, it's for $1.
For $1.
I don't know.
Bill, you'd buy it just to smash it.
Yeah, you see, that's the thing.
Throw it out.
Yeah, it just seems like throw it off
I'll
the
just
top of
buy
a
it for
building or
$1
something.
and throw it outside in the dumpster.
Yeah, it's just, you know, I hate waste.
If if Bill or someone else, let's say you brought it in and you did that, you put it out for sale for $1, and Bill or someone else said, "Here's $1, I'm going to buy it to throw it out," would you sell it?
Yeah, I guess I would. Sale is a sale.
Would you? I feel like you wouldn't, though.
I don't think you would.
You would not sell it.
You wouldn't
Well,
sell it.
you know what it is? I realize that, you know, we were talking about doing a lot of garage sales this summer, again, because I have now the time. And we have a lot of stuff, as you know, in the house and as well as, you know. But I thought, gee, if I take that, realistically, I know that if I put that TV out on the driveway as part of a garage sale, and I put it out for $10, nobody's going to buy it. It's hard for me to part with stuff of my father. You know, my mother's still around, but not really. And like even here, you know, there's still signs that you see. Well, Bill saw a lot of stuff that signs he wrote in his handwriting. He's looking at it and saying it brings back good memories.
Yeah.
There are a lot of signs that my father wrote, and I can't bring myself to throw this away, even though it's, you know, what is it? It's you know, the idea that he's gone and will never be able to write something like regular boards and slap it on the side of a box.
Mhm.
That bothers me a lot. So let me keep that.
On a lighter note, as far as signs go, Bill, one of our favorite stories is during one of the times that Steve was away, I think in Japan, right?
Yeah, you went to Japan quite often.
Well, we bought a lot of Pokemon, so we had to do it. It was business, but
Right.
also seeing family.
But one of the main what was one of the main things you would do when you would come in and you'd take over the store?
I would take over the store. I would run the store early on when I first went to graduate school. And again, that was coming off of working at the store every day, 5 days a week. So I was one of the guys. And so, you would call me in and, I would work at the, I would man the ship, the crab boat. It wasn't called the crab boat back then, but I would man things. And, I set up a table in the front of the store with, make me an offer, Steve's away. And that happened every time. We would sell the miscellaneous items that, were unsellable recently. And then at the end of one of the sales, I mean, who knows, when the sale was, Anthony's like, let's put this sign in the box. So we had the signs printed out for it, just like we have signs printed out for anything. He's like, put it in here and we'll see what happens. And what was it, 10 years later?
Yeah, years went by.
I forgot about it, but I open up my, I don't know if you texted it to me or you put it on my Facebook wall, but when I saw you holding that sign, like memories flooded back like you would not believe. And it couldn't have happened better, like how it was discovered. You discovered the sign.
And I was here
when
for
Anthony
it.
was here. Oh my, it was like the
Steve has no memory of this.
No, I remember pulling out and saying, "What the hell is this?" Steve's away in Japan sale.
I'm a fan of the long game. I was like, this is great. I was like, we'll put it in a box. It'll get buried, and one day you'll find it.
Yeah, so here, 10 years later, it's like I'm sitting inside, and he starts laughing, like cackling, and
I loved it. It was great.
You still have that sign?
I don't know where it is. I
It's
don't think.
somewhere.
I
It's
have the picture of it.
It's
like
true.
anything else, I don't throw away anything, so I probably will have that sign that I'll find again when I start cleaning up again.
Yep.
But I mean, I know you guys had sales when I wasn't around.
We weren't throwing stuff
Yeah,
away.
no, but I don't know.
Nor were we getting
all I
rid
ever
of good
said,
stuff.
all I ever said was, "Don't tell me what you sold." Because like anything else, there's so much stuff here that we joke that if we took one long box of comic books and threw it in the dumpster every night, we could have done that for months,
You would
and I
never
wouldn't
know.
even notice that it was gone. That's how much stuff we had. And that's how much stuff we moved
We
today.
still have.
Yeah, and that's after I got rid of 50, 75 long boxes of stuff last year.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of stuff. We're still a lot of stuff. We're surrounded by this stuff, and we only have a few days.
Talking about those back issue bins. So yesterday, and just some of the downtime, trying to relax and strategize and things. I took down that metal shelving that was, attached to the back issue bins that we used to hold up, miscellaneous toys. And I'm thinking to myself, Harry Oto put these up.
Oh.
And I'm taking them down, and it was just like a surreal thing. And again, I think about your dad all the time, and we've said it several times tonight. It's his mark is all over the store. I mean, he did a lot of the handiwork jobs.
Yeah, he was very handy.
Yeah, he was great, especially which freed up your time to do other things, and everybody else too. He would just come in and do it around everybody else.
Yeah.
and he got the job done, and done very well when it came to anything with his hands.
I guess part of the reasons I don't mind getting out of retail is because I'm a little tired of people. What happened was a couple of days ago, I guess it was, a young girl came in here looking for a college-age girl, looking for a Japanese manga. I think it was called what was it, Read or Die, volume. Oh, she wanted, but we've already packed this stuff up and taken it to storage. So I said, well, we only have one volume. It's volume 1. And he goes, well, that's the one I want. And I saw it here last time, and I didn't buy it. Like, I don't know why you don't buy it then. But anyway, so I said, okay, I'll go to the warehouse. I'll bring it in. He says, okay, well, I won't be here I'm going away, so I won't be here to pick it up. But my father will come get it. So I said, okay. So we went to the warehouse next time, and then one of the things on my little notes of things to do while I was there was get this book and get it back to the store because I didn't want to just forget altogether. So I brought it back and was sitting here. And today, in the midst of our moving and the chaos, the old fellow comes along and he wants it, the Read or Die, and we found it for him. But he comes over to me because we're closing, and he says, are you having a closeout discount? And I was like, well, no. I said, I announced that we're closing 5 months ago. We've had sales, 10% off, 25% off, even when the anniversary of Dad's death in June 3rd, we made it 50% off. Now, so we're out of here. And he was all kind of huffy about it because I got the impression that it's like, oh, well, I'm surprised you're not giving me a discount. I said, I don't have to give a discount. I said, who is this guy? So I went a little nuts. But it's the folks who know me and who have shopped here were glad they got to witness it.
I haven't seen that in so long.
Yeah,
that side of you.
Because everybody's joking that now that I've mellowed out and my kung fu is weak and all that, I don't yell at people as much. But I think it's a great irony. It's almost like if there was a God, he sent this one customer in it to be my last customer.
I think he was the last customer.
The last customer I ever have to deal with.
Yeah.
But that he came in to remind me why I want to close the store. And so I'm screaming at this guy about, you're exactly the kind of reason why I want to get out of this business, why I hate retail. And, it's like, you're a vulture. It's like, well, you make such a big deal about it. And so I said, what did I say? I don't remember.
You refused to sell him the book.
Well, yeah, I said, okay, you know what? I don't even want to sell you the book. What's this $10? And he wants it at a discount. So $10, and it's nothing. So I guess I went a little nuts. I said something like, no, now he said, well, you don't want to sell it to my daughter? I said, well, you're your daughter's representative. And I didn't say you're an ass, but I said, now you're just going to have to go home and tell her that Daddy doesn't love you.
You did say that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's like, obviously, what's he going to do? Have me shut down? Too late.
Have you messed with anybody? I know it's not really your style,
for
but
fun.
yeah, like in these final, or even Bill, when you answer the phone today, I'm like, I'll mess with them. It's like, what do you nothing to lose?
What time are you up till? Oh, 8:00. No, a week.
I mean, you could have been like, oh, we're open 24 hours. I could have said anything.
Oh man.
Unfortunately, I missed that interaction. However, I did see another one that, again, I've always said you have different sides. I mean, as we all do. But this other interaction that I witnessed, kind of shows the softer side of Steve Oto. So there was a young customer, maybe 10, 11, 12, who was here with his mother, and as they were walking out, you handed this young kid a good sized stack of comic books for free, and you said, "Keep reading," and it was something so pure about that you just wanted this kid to continue in the hobby.
Yeah, I mean, he was, he was one of our pull list customers, and very enthusiastic about the characters, about the storylines, and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know him that well, but I knew in many ways his appetite outweighed his wallet, I guess. So there was always a problem, that he's buying too many books. He has to cut titles down and all that kind of stuff. And today, because he hadn't been in like months, the file was very big, and so basically he handed me back, I don't know, maybe was it about 10, 15 books or something like that? Part of I don't even remember what the titles were.
Convergence,
but
maybe?
Convergence or some Earth 2 thing. So he gave it back to me, and it's like, okay, so he bought, he and his mom bought the rest of the stuff, and it's like, it's like, what the hell at this point? This is, you want to encourage this kid to read, because kids don't read, and that's one of the problems with this industry.
Going back to the move out, these final weeks, I really want to talk about what it's been like here. Now, one thing though I have to say, you said that it's mostly been a one-man operation. That's not entirely true. You have had assistants. Rich Roney.
Rich Roney. In fact, I was going to give him a call, but Rich Roney is my best friend from high school. I've known him for, God. That we always talk about. Can I talk about the certain points in time that change history?
Yes. He told the story of how you
Oh,
met,
did he do it?
But I would like to hear it from your
I
perspective.
guess what it was is, I guess as your listeners already know, Rich came from Illinois, and we met, was it 10th grade? So I guess, I think it was biology, but, he introduced himself. And at that time, I was such an avid anti-smoking advocate that my first sentence to him wasn't "Hello, how are you?" My first sentence was, "You're not a smoker, are you?" And he said to me, "Oh no," but now he says, "I wish I'd said yes, I am."
Think of how different things would have
But
been.
exactly, if we had not been friends, I mean, you guys would never have met him, and he's a major influence, I think, for everybody here.
Absolutely.
Aside from being one of the nicest guys that ever walked the planet.
Before he started calling, you and Tom and everybody else, I mean, me and Rich had every Sunday, epic conversations.
Oh, don't tell Tom that.
I won't tell Tom.
You'll get in the gunny sack if he knows that you used to call, Rich used to call you before him.
Rich called me all the time. Every Sunday, Rich would call me. We would talk forever. He would give me an update about the store, especially when I was, in Baltimore. He was the one. Him and Drew were my two links to what was going on here.
Yeah. It's so funny how there are certain times in your life that it could have been an alternate reality, and I guess we're all better for it that he was not a smoker.
That's right.
Later on, he started smoking like a.
It was too late though. We were already friends.
Yeah, we were already friends.
But I always tell the story of how I got my job here. Was you asked me, "Hey kid, how's your alphabet?" If I didn't know my ABCs and I couldn't alphabetize back issues, well, we might not be sitting here right now.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that we always talk about, but we talked about in the first episode, are your Otoisms. And one of your Otoisms, not entirely an Oto original, but one that you follow, is proper planning prevents poor performance.
I learned that in the moving industry. I used to work as an estimator for a commercial mover in Manhattan. The movers used to have they used to call it the 5 Ps. Proper planning prevents poor performance. And it actually turned out to be true. It's one of those things where, to this day, everything you do, if it's set right, you'll be okay, as opposed to looking at each other later and say, whoa, what?
So how has that shaped the exit strategy, the move out, over these last weeks?
It slowed me down. No, basically, my thinking was if I can get the steel shelving set up there first, and then put the statues in there, and then get the Bowen busts over there, and then get all the Batman busts over there. When the perimeter of the room is set up in such a way that I can find everything. But again, because I'm anal, I put everything in alphabetical order, and that takes a little time. But like if somebody says I need an abomination statue, I know exactly where to go to get it.
If Bill hadn't shown up, do you think you would have made your deadline?
No. Remember Sulu? We're not going to make it, are we? If Bill hadn't been here, I wouldn't have been. And if you hadn't come in today, we wouldn't have.
It was huge, Anthony.
Yeah. It was much. It's much worse. Again, advice for the general public: whatever you think you're going to do, whatever your estimate is, double it. If you think you can get it done in 2 weeks, you better figure 4, and you'll be wrong. You probably needed 5 or 6.
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, not to be a jerk, but
Where's the 5 Ps?
Well, the 5 P. Yeah, but I feel like we all kind of. Like, none of us were surprised that it took as long as it did. I think you were the only one who was surprised. I mean, because we were all like, it's so much stuff. And it was the time with the window was getting shorter and shorter. I think I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in retrospect, I thought, I guess at the beginning of June, or maybe around the 10th, I started thinking, I would have been better off if I had told people that we're closing at the end of May, so I'd have the entire month of June to move.
Yeah, I was going to ask. That's actually something Drew brought up in his episode, where he was like, that would, to be closed, even if it's the last 2 weeks, anything, just to have that uninterrupted time.
It was a monetary decision on my part. If I didn't keep the store going and continue to have income coming into, some income coming into the store, I wouldn't have been able to pay the bills.
I mean, again, you mentioned Rich help. There have been a few other people you've permitted to help, but because a lot of people volunteered.
Yeah, no, my feeling was that we need the bodies for like physical labor, but especially in the beginning when we have to coordinate it right, the proper planning part, where it's nice that guys will come in and say we want to help, but realistically, if I'm trying to get certain pieces out, and I know where they are, or I know how to what need to be packed and where it's going to go, and I hate to say it this way, that they would have been in the way. And in the beginning, also, it's like everybody's coming here to socialize, so it's not. I can't tell you how many times I feel like while everybody's standing around chatting, I'm working in the back or something. It's like, well, where's the help? So it was better for me not to have help while I try to get this thing set up. And then I only put the call out for help last week. Every day's an adventure.
All right, fair enough. Because I remember coming in last week. I've been offering to help, and you ignored me. And then I came in last week, and I'm like, how's it going? You're like, I'm running out of time. There's too much stuff. I'm like, I've been offering. I got to ask.
I forced myself on you, by the way.
Well, I think I've learned, like, that's kind of what you have to do. If you show up.
I was texting you, like, I'm coming these days.
Oh. Yeah, I was just, that's nice. That's all I thought. I was like, that's nice of him to come in.
If you show up, he won't turn you away.
You know what it is? It's like how everybody got a job here.
You touched on this before, but is there anything else you'd like to say about these final weeks? As you've been saying goodbye to a lot of customers, and people have been coming in, bringing you a lot of bringing you
alcohol.
stuff.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking, gee, wouldn't it be funny if I just become a drunk after this?
You might.
But yeah, again, it's unexpected. It's nice to see certain people that you know that they're engaged now or type. But chances are you're not going to see them again. But you've watched a lot of these people grow up, and you've watched them have their own kids, and the kids are growing up. I mean, 13. He, I knew him when he was dating his girl Chrissy. They got married. Next thing you know, they've got a daughter. They got a second kid. Now they got a third kid. And he dresses up as Thor at conventions. And she's a Valkyrie, and it's amazing to see. They came in to say they don't shop here regularly anymore at all, but they came by to say goodbye, and it's like, it's nice to be in their thoughts. It is a bit of a surprise that for some people, I mean, today there were people who actually were tearing up, and it's like, gee, it's nice to have been held in such high regard by some of these people, And sometimes you think you're just the guy who's supposed to be bringing them up and selling them stuff. It's the end of the store. The legacy is the people, and if they remember me nicely, then I think I did a good job on this planet.
Well, let me put it this way: nobody's going to forget you.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Certainly not that old guy.
But that's the thing, anytime, whether it's like an interview that I do for one of these things or just talking to people, whatever it is, that's always the question. What is it about alternate realities? Mm-hmm. What is it that makes it special? What is it that makes you want to do these projects? And the answer is always the same. It never changes. It's the people. It's the community.
I always say this to people, and what rings true for me is your final comments and your remarks in the documentary about the people. I love it. I say it all the time. You're smiling already.
Wait till you hear my concluding remarks
do it again?
for this.
Yeah, the people as colorful as the pages of a comic book. I mean, it really is.
A lot of history's gone through here, and it's a once in a lifetime experience in its own way.
Yeah, it's a time in your life, and it's again going back to what I was saying at the beginning about the Mai in my comic shop history. I mean, again, for Metal it was riding his bike here.
Mm-hmm.
For you it was walking here. I mean, I don't know. I think when I think back, what I come to most often are those college years, because that was when I got a key to the store, and took on more responsibility and was working here with Sean and Tom, and really became friends and had a lot of fun. And it was a time in my life when I didn't have a full-time job or errands to run or bills to pay or anything like that. And it was just, I don't know. It's a weird thing too. I guess that's nostalgia because you obviously can't go back. I don't necessarily want to go back. Again, going to law school, passing the bar, getting a job, getting engaged, getting my own place. They're all amazing things, and they're natural next steps in one's life. So it's not like I ever say, boy, I wish I could be that college kid again. But when I think back to it, that's kind of what I go to, that time.
Hey, getting the key to this place is like getting a key to your girlfriend's apartment. I mean, think about the first time you walked in and nobody else is here, right? We've all done it.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. The first time, it's like, holy shit. It's a powerful experience.
That's what I was talking to Bill earlier. I think that's one of the things I want to do is frame my key.
Where's my key?
The old key, not the new key, the old one.
Where's my key?
Ask Tom Darby.
No, Steve Ryan had it. Did you give it to Tom Darby after that?
Tom Darby never gave back a key.
Yeah,
he still has a safe key, doesn't he?
He talks. I don't know if you want to listen to episode 6. He talks about it. Well, let's see.
He knew that you wanted the key back.
But you didn't ask
You
him.
didn't ask him for it. It's really funny.
I guess to me, it's like it's a natural thing. You know,
Get back the key.
You get back the key.
Absolutely.
I kept my key.
Yeah, but you still use it. I mean,
That's
you're
true.
called upon every now and then.
That's true.
You're called upon to serve once in a while, you know?
That's true. This is probably the storyteller in me, but Steve Oto on Tuesday, June 30th, on the final day, when this place is completely cleared out,
We hope.
well, hopefully, the slat wall is down, it's been spackled, painted, cleaned, swept, you're good to go. You walk to the door, you flip the switch. I mean, what goes through your mind that last time you look at that empty store? I know you haven't thought about it yet.
I'll think about it now.
It's going to be a relief, I'm sure.
See, again, to me, the journey's not over. You know, alternate realities isn't over. Alternate realities is probably going to end up in court fighting to get security deposit back.
What a note to go out on.
Yeah.
And that's the finale, folks. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, but you see, that's why it's just there's so much more to do, and it's not just the physical location.
Well, gentlemen, as we sit here approaching midnight
Is it really that late? Oh, God. All right.
in almost empty alternate realities, is there anything else that either one of you would like to say?
You had spoken about regrets, and I guess the one regret that I've got is that the store took up so much of my life and my time that I never got to spend as much time with my son growing up as I would have liked to have. He was, you know, obviously he turned out okay, you know, and he's a great kid, but I think haven't been as, I don't want to say I failed as a father, but I could have been a better father to him. And thank God that, you know, at the time my folks, he was very close to my folks, you know, to his grandparents, because they were there while I was here. They made a big difference in his life, so I was grateful for that. But that's the regret I have is I let the store become too much of my life here, and I forgot to enjoy the rest of it. You know, it's again, you can't do anything about the past, but if I were to do it over again, I probably would not have devoted all my time and energy to this. It would have been hard for me not to, because I am a workaholic. You know, there's a reason I stay up till 2 o'clock every night. I mean, Evan might say differently, but I think he might have even been happier if it hadn't been so much of a comic book store owner. So that's the only regret I have. You know, these, you know, it's like anything else. There are pros and cons. You know, a lot of good things happen from here. So, you know, hope he understands.
You know, I'm sure he does.
Anything else you would like to say?
You know, what I would like to say, Steve, you know, there's so many things to thank you for. So I'm just going to say thank you for everything. You know, certainly you've been so many things to me and so many other people over the years. So thanks for being around. Thanks for listening. You know, certainly when I was here more often, I mean, you really were a father figure in my life, and I really, really appreciate that. You know, I looked up to you, and I still do. And, you know, I hope with the store closing, we'll still stay close.
Well, again, as I said before, you too are like the sons. You know, we're proud to be your father, and you know, my life is better for you being in it. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for creating and sustaining the store, for, you know, welcoming all of us into it, for asking me how my alphabet is.
Yeah.
I mean, that made all the difference in my life. And, you know, thank you for teaching me the parable of the flat squirrel. You know, we joke a lot about the Otoisms, but that's one that I've really derived a lot of meaning from. The fact that this podcast exists, in large part, it's because of the lesson that hesitation kills. That if there's something you want, you have to go for it. I think there's such great truth in that. So thank you for teaching me that most fundamental lesson.
You know, I just want to say to you, Anthony, thanks also for what you've done over the last, half a decade or so with, chronicalizing, the store and everybody in it. I mean, we all talked about how, wouldn't it be great to have a documentary or a film crew in here, filming us doing this stuff, because we had so much fun doing it. And you took the initiative and actually got it done. And, for somebody who had never done this sort of thing before, in respect to the film, it was brilliant. I mean, not just because, I was a part of it, we were all a part of it, and we knew the source material, but it was amazing. I mean, I look at it, I watched it very recently, and it holds up. And I mean, it's just an amazing snapshot of our lives, 5 years ago. And so, I mean, I'll always have that. And, thank you for doing that for us. And, when I watch it, and I've watched that documentary, I don't know how many times now, and it's like visiting old friends. And again, and it's a picture of us, in time that'll be there forever. And so you captured that moment. And so thank you for that. And, and continuing everything that you do. These podcasts have been brilliant. I mean, living in New Mexico has been very difficult on me and my family. And, just over the last, 12 weeks, just, hearing everybody talking about the store and, their passions about comics and what the store has meant to them. It's that shared experience, and it's just, it's been wonderful. And, I thank you for doing this. I really do.
Oh, thank you. And, that's really been my honor to do all of this.
You've covered everything there is to cover about this.
And you should listen to all 12 of them, because everything has been covered. I mean, it's great.
Well, I'll be alone in the warehouse, so I can listen to these.
Well, thank you both for participating in this finale episode of my comic shop history. Now comes the hard part, saying goodbye. I once said, comic book stories never really end, and the tale of alternate realities is no different. But in the end, what I've learned is this. Comic book stories never really end. Comic book stores do. But the tale of alternate realities is not the tale of 700 Central Park Avenue. It is the story of the people who gave the store life, the friends who go out to dinner on Saturday night, and all fight to sit next to Rich Roney, a person none of us would have met if not for this store. We are the Wednesday regulars and the Sunday browsers, the best customers and the worst offenders, the friends and the gunny sack holders. We are alternate realities. I've ended each episode of this podcast by saying, don't be a flat squirrel. But that's not just my sign-off. It's advice. It's a motto, a mission statement. Maybe there's a place like alternate realities in your life. It doesn't even have to be a comic book store. But if there's a place where you have an opportunity, somewhere, sometime, to reach out, to make a connection, to make a friend, don't hesitate. Don't be a flat squirrel. Because who knows? They could be the best friends you'll ever make. And one day you can host a podcast about it. My name is Anthony Desiato, and I have been your host for my comic shop history. For the final time, don't be a flat squirrel.
Even death won't stop me. I'll stand my ground and claw, return and try. I won't ever look back. I won't ever come back. This is not my home, not my home.
You are now leading the world of Musings of a Geek Podcast Network. Stay geeky, my friends.